All right, it won't give me this. Oh wait, there we go. All right, we're live now, but I don't see you in my control room. It's are you seeing me?
Video's loading.
Yeah, hopefully you'll show up in this control room and I can give you control when it's your portion. But if it's not, we'll go low tech and I'll swing my laptop around.
I can see you.
You can see me now?
Yep.
I can't see you in the control room, so. All right, I guess we'll just have to go the low tech route. All right, everybody, welcome. It's 6 o'clock on Tuesday night. This is the time when we do Bitcoin Filter, stream live from Ubud in downtown Ubud, Bali. And essentially what we're trying to do here is build a Bitcoin economy here in Ubud. That's what we're trying to do. It works like this. Let me go ahead and share my screen so the folks at home can see this. There we go. So we've got Facebook group, Bitcoins in Bali. If you go to facebook.com/group/Bitcoins in Bali and join the group, you can see everything that we're talking about. Basically, it's an ongoing discussion about Bitcoin and how we're building the Bitcoin economy here. Hello, Stamen. Hello. Welcome. And so when we're not together in person, we come here to the Facebook group and post things here. And then when we finally do get together in person, we can discuss it. So the conversation takes place here at first. We go over the news items of the day. We go over local happenings. We talk about the price. And essentially, it's usually civil, but it's always interesting, never dull. Bitcoin is fascinating, and we always have a good time talking about it. So let's see here. We've got a really good program tonight. We're lucky enough to be joined by Jonathan Brown, developer of a Bitcoin platform on Drupal. And so we're going to cut the news items a little short. I'll go through a few items, but in short order, we're going to turn it over to Jonathan. He's going to give us a little talk about his background and then what he's been doing with Drupal, building essentially a website platform that integrates Bitcoin functionality using Drupal, the Drupal platform. So that'll be interesting. I'll turn it over to him after just a few news items and a discussion of the price. So let's jump right in. All right. Bitcoin price. We're here in Indonesia, and the fiat currency here in Indonesia is the Indonesian rupiah. This is the Bitcoin exchange here in Indonesia, and we're right around 3,799,000 rupiah for one Bitcoin, right? It's a kind of a small market. They do, I've seen anywhere from 50 Bitcoins a day to a little bit over 200 when there's a lot of price movement. And Bitcoin can be plus or minus 5% versus the more active markets that we see in the world. So here in Indonesia, we've got a shallower market, and so when there's big movements, there are arbitrage opportunities because it can tend to be 5% up or down versus the big markets like Bitstamp or Coinbase, other larger markets. You see a a narrower spread. So it's kind of interesting being here in Indonesia. You can get good deals on Bitcoin, or you can buy Bitcoin elsewhere and sell them on the Indonesian market. So if you haven't already checked it out, check out bitcoin.co.id. But most people think in terms of the US dollar. In terms of the US dollar, we're right around 292.40. And it's been hovering kind of around just underneath $300 for a little while now. Let's take a look at the historical price. We basically are reconvening these Bitcoin meetings. We get together every week, and we stopped right before Christmas time. And you can see that after we stopped meeting regularly, the price took a nosedive down to 152. And then we had one meeting in here in mid-January, so the price came back up. And then when they realized we weren't meeting here in Ubud, we had another price crash. And of course, the rumor mill has brought the Bitcoin price right up back to around 300. This is all based on the activity here in Bali, right? And the things that are going on here. So the Bitcoin universe is very excited that we're holding these weekly meetings once again. It's very good for the price. Hopefully we can break this psychological barrier of 300. I'm just kidding. You guys all know that. But it is very curious to have watched the price over the last year. We got together every week last year, beginning in like June or July. We had 36 Bitcoin filter meetings last year. And last year was the worst year for Bitcoin in terms of an investment, right? I mean, there were all these headlines, Bitcoin worst investment of 2014. And while there's lots of theories about why the price has done that, we watched the price steadily fall, I think, for the entire year. And well, now we've got a little bit of an uptrend here. It's kind of interesting to see. And who knows why? I mean, there's lots of news going on, and lots of reasons to be optimistic. Of course, I had lots of reasons to be optimistic in October, November, December last year, and we just watched the price go down and down and down during that time. So it's hard to tell. Some of the things I've been reading lately are say that the price is disconnected from the fundamentals, right? You'd think that as the popularity of Bitcoin went up, the demand for the currency would go up and the price would go up. But there's lots of speculators in the market. It's a very thin market, and it's easily pushed around by sophisticated speculators. So who knows what reality is? I think the main thing that I tell my friends and family when they call and offer their condolences because Bitcoin went out of business or Bitcoin went bankrupt or whatever they think they read in the latest news.
CEO was arrested.
What's that?
My favorite one is like the Bitcoin CEO was arrested.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Well, you know what? Since I've been following Bitcoin, I realize how inept the world's journalists are. I'm reading like every other news story with much more, I don't know, skepticism or knowing that I should probably look into the details myself if I really want to know.
This is the same with every discipline.
It is. Well, I don't know. I grew up reading the news just thinking that's the way things were. And after being so intimately involved with Bitcoin and then seeing it misrepresented in so many ways, I don't know, it opened my eyes to the world. Before I was naive, and now I'm less naive. I'm probably still naive. But anyway, it's nice to see that the price is coming back up. There are several news items that might be related to this, one of which is related to price, so I'll go to that next. Here's another price for Bitcoin. Are you guys familiar with this? $13, $13.125 for Bitcoin. You ever seen this thing, GBTC?
Selling it for $13.
Yes, or the Bitcoin is on sale. Actually, this is the Bitcoin Investment Trust. It is the first approved exchange-traded fund for Bitcoin, and each share is pegged to the Bitcoin price and is worth 1/10 what the actual Bitcoin price is, according to their prospectus. So each of these shares is designed to mimic the Bitcoin price on a 1/10 basis. You can read the press release here. There's a little bit more information on it. Let's see if I can find the gist of it. So they went through a 12-month FINRA approval cycle. Let's see. Where did I read this? Let's see.
Why is it 130?
113 now. Looks like it started at 105. It's up to 113. These guys, it's an over-the-counter exchange traded fund, which means it won't show up in a lot of basically. You got the Nasdaq here and it reporting 0 because it's over the counter. It's not. The trades don't happen in an automated public manner, and you've got to rely on the actual managers of this fund to know what the going price is. Maybe they publish on a daily basis, but you're going over the counter with these guys.
I don't understand if Bitcoin is $300. Why is it not 30 or?
I don't know. I don't know. This is the problem with virtual representations of real things. They do this with gold. There's a gold EFT called GLD, and it's supposed to track the actual price of gold, but you don't have to go through the hassle of buying a safe, buying a security guard, putting the gold in your safe. You can expose your portfolio to gold. In principle, this is what you do, and you don't have to worry about the quote carry costs. Now, there's probably, well, there are lots of estimates, but there's probably 100 times more paper gold or gold derivatives than there is actual gold. And this is an attempt to do the same thing with Bitcoin. Presumably, or at least according to the marketing documents, you don't have to be a computer whiz. You don't have to worry about security. These guys will hold the Bitcoins and they'll sell you a share in their fund, and that way you can expose your portfolio to the Bitcoin gains. But there's a lot of criticisms around this within the Bitcoin faithful. I mean, Bitcoin was invented as an answer to these kinds of financial fictions. It's interesting how many people just want to kind of map the old ways of doing things onto this great new technology. If you're familiar with Bitcoin, it doesn't have the same carry costs that gold has. And so in my opinion, you don't really need these things. But maybe if you want your grandmother to own it, or people who don't want to bother installing software on the machine, but they're interested in it, this is a way for them to get involved. So it's worth a look. It's worth understanding. If nothing else, it's good publicity for Bitcoin. Kind of shows that Bitcoin is coming of age. It's definitely on Wall Street's radar. It took them 12 months to get the license to be able to offer this. Incidentally, the Winklevoss twins are offering something similar, although I don't think their fund has been approved yet. But it's just it comes. For me, it shows that Bitcoin has come of age a little bit, and you've got the old-time Wall Street getting involved in the Bitcoin ecosystem, such as it is. All right, so that's the next price item to keep your eye on. GBTC. Put it in your stock quote app on your phone. See where it goes. All right, so like I said, we have an ongoing conversation here on the Facebook group, Bitcoins in Bali. And the next little segment that I'm going to do, we're just going to talk about a few of the news items that were posted in this group. But I would encourage you, if you haven't done so already, come to this group, Bitcoins in Bali, and join. And then when you find interesting articles out on the web, post them up to the group. We can have an online discussion here. And then next week when we get together every Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. If you post something good and we want to discuss it, we can bring it up for everyone to talk about. So it's This is the format that we've been using for the last year or so. It's a really great way to have an online and an offline conversation. Get involved and post your stories here. And in the next segment, we're going to talk about a few of the news items that were posted here since the last time we met. First item on here is the most important chart for the global economy. Now, we talk about Bitcoin a lot here, but my background is in economics. It's what I studied in college, and I think Bitcoin has a lot of macroeconomic consequences for the world, and so that ends up being a topic of conversation in the group quite a bit. And essentially, this article it's not about Bitcoin per se. It's about the strength of the dollar and a commentary on the ongoing currency wars that are taking place in the world right now. Here's it looks like a chart since last June of the dollar versus all these other currencies on a zeroed out basis. So the dollar has gained against almost every other currency. Anybody got an idea what this currency is? That's a good guess, but it's the Swiss franc. But the ruble has also taken a 2 or 3 day 20 or 30% jump versus the dollar recently. We've seen similar action with the Turkish lira. It's strange days in the world of macroeconomics and central bank policy around the world. And well, we're here to see it. It's going to be a fireworks show over the next year. This article is all about the currency wars, and if you've been paying attention, there's really strange things happening around the world. The United States has quadrupled its money supply since 2008, right? And the rest of the world is left with very bad choices on what they can do with their own currency versus the dollar. And since late last year, and the Federal Reserve, which is the central bank in the United States, discontinuing that money printing that I just mentioned, it has caused the dollar to strengthen, which means U.S. exports are less attractive abroad, and it's having all kinds of effects on the price of oil and other commodities. And well, we just have to wait and see what happens. Incidentally, Bitcoin, if you don't know already, was born in 2008. It's the baby of the global financial crisis. It was an answer to these kinds of shenanigans because, well, obviously with Bitcoin, you don't have a central bank controlling the money supply and the overnight interest rate like you do with every other major currency. So it's interesting to see the world vying with one another, all the countries in the world vying with one another with the policy tools they have at their disposal, which is interest rates and money supply. And then you've got Bitcoin kind of opting out and doing its own thing and gaining popularity over time as people repudiate the old way of doing things. So really, really interesting article. Take a look at it. We'll put the link in the show notes. The other interesting thing that's happening on a global basis, and we haven't really discussed this online, but we will in the weeks to come, is what's going on in Greece. Anybody been following the news from Greece? Right? Who here is from Europe or is from a country that's in the Eurozone? Okay, so this is big news, and it's really interesting. It's great soap opera. It's good spectator sport to watch every day when you see Varoufakis, I think, is the finance minister out of Greece, and then you've got even Angela Merkel weighing in on the viability of Greece going forward. You can really see how central banks and the European Central Bank and the interested parties, I mean, there's so much riding on what these people say in the press and what these people might or might not do. And it just goes to show how subject to capriciousness all of these things are, because they're subject to policy, which is controlled by a and it seems they're talking now again about a possible exit of Greece from the Eurozone, which I don't know what the ramifications of that will be, or the ramifications of Greece defaulting on its debt. But you know, countries all over Europe have loaned money to Greece and each other within the Eurozone. And if well, depending on how significant the Greek portion of that debt is, will determine if there's a domino effect, or there's some sort of serious systemic risk to the euro if Greece you know, finally admits, or Europe itself admits that Greece isn't going to be paying back its debts. So you've got a lot of banks around Europe that are only 1 or 2% capitalized, meaning they've only got 1 or 2% of their assets in cash or cash reserves. So if they have to write off more than 2% of debt because of what Greece owes them, well, you could see some bank failures and a real problem throughout Europe. So it's definitely something to watch, and it's well, it's interesting in the Bitcoin world because anybody who gets tired of this kind of thing happening, you know, might take a look at something like Bitcoin and move there. Bitcoin, the more things like this happen, the more attractive something like Bitcoin becomes. So we find ourselves in the weird position of rooting for something bad to happen. But anyway, it's something to keep your eye on. The next article that was posted in the group that I thought was interesting was this China now controls Bitcoin, and that's just the beginning. You know, you can find all kinds of articles about the rise of China and the significance of China in the global economy. And there's no doubt about it. China is a huge player in the Bitcoin world. If you ever look at this site, fiatleak.com, which has basically connections to APIs to markets all over the world, you can see, you know, since I turned it on earlier, like just before the meeting, we're approaching 5,000 Bitcoins transacted on the Chinese markets, when during the same time, only 337 Bitcoins were exchanged on the USD market. Now, US is sleeping right now, so it's a little bit skewed, but if you were to watch this over 24 hours, you'd see that there's almost 10 times as much activity happening in China as there is in other parts.
So I think some of the Chinese exchanges, they have zero fee models. Mm-hmm. So, you know, with a lot of the other exchanges, you lose a part of your money whenever you trade.
Oh, okay.
But in China, you can just keep trading back and forwards, and there isn't a fee. So some people say that's part of the reason why there's so much more trading in China.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. And, you know, it should be made clear that we're merely relying on the APIs from those exchanges to provide information. This is not based on the blockchain per se. This is just, you know, the Chinese exchange saying, you know, we traded this much Bitcoin. They could be doing the equivalent of fractional reserve banking, trading Bitcoins that don't exist, essentially. Well, that's a possibility. But I think, you know, we had the Bitcoin Film Festival here in Bali back in December. We screened the International Bitcoin Film Festival, and we had about 300 Chinese tourists show up at the Bitcoin Festival. We had to turn people away. It was like totally overrun. Anybody here was there for that? Stamen, you were gone during the. Were you there for it, or were you gone for the film festival? Oh yeah, so you. Right. Well, that's only the people that were actually made it into the theater. There were like people all. Anyway, it was too many people. I mean, there was at least twice as many Chinese people as there were people from here in Bali. So there's definitely interest in China, and well, you know, China and Russia, and, you know, to a lesser extent, but still significantly, India and Brazil, they're kind of fed up with the U.S. and U.S. monetary policy, and they're looking for alternatives. China is the largest net importer of gold in the world. They also mine an unknown quantity of gold and have been doing this for at least the last decade. Well, there's lots of speculation as to why they're doing that, but kind of the elephant in the room is that they could back up the yuan with gold. They could tomorrow announce that they're backing up their currency with gold, and it would instantly have more integrity than the U.S. dollar, which is backed by the taxpayers of the United States. So, Bitcoin has a lot of the same characteristics of gold: a limited supply. You can't print it, you can't duplicate it, and it's well, some people call it gold with a teleporter, which I think is a neat analogy. But they're pretty savvy. The Chinese are pretty savvy about what's going on with the global monetary system, and it doesn't surprise me that there is this kind of interest in Bitcoin. So this article is all about China eating our lunch, and they've got their own problems. I mean, China isn't their connection with the United States, their fate is sealed, right? And it really would hurt them if the U.S. market went away. So I don't think they're going to do anything too hostile, but it's an interesting article, and it's an interesting thing to keep your eye on. Well, Cher, welcome.
Thank you. Sorry, I'll in really quick.
All right, so I'm going to cut short the news section and leave it at that for now. And with this, I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan to talk about his implementation of a platform on the Drupal platform. So maybe you can introduce yourself and take it away, and I'll just turn the camera around so the people at home can see.
Okay, I'll describe it.
Yeah, let's do the switch here.
Well, thank you. I think this should be set up.
Yeah. Oh. How's that?
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. So I'm Jonathan Brown. I've been using Drupal for 10 years approximately, and I first heard about Bitcoin 2 years ago and got very excited about that, but I'm still excited about Drupal, so I decided to combine these together. So this CoinTools project has been the product of that. With Drupal, there's Drupal 7 and there's Drupal 8, and CoinTools is available for both, but Drupal 7 has been stable for several years now, and Drupal 8 is not released yet. But most of the functionality I've implemented is for Drupal 8. And if we look at this website, DrupalReleaseDate.com, so based on the number of critical issues left on Drupal, they predict September 25th. So, it could be another 6 months before Drupal 8 is released. And until that happens, a lot of the work that I'm doing with CoinTools isn't that useful, because if you want to deploy a Drupal 8 website before it's released, then there's going to be a lot of extra hassle. But I did some of the work for Drupal 7, and I'm over Drupal 7, so people are just going to have to wait for Drupal 8.
Is everyone familiar with what Drupal is? Yeah? Content management system.
Yeah. So it's kind of like it's like WordPress, except maybe for building more complicated websites. So the main thing I'm going to do today is give you a demo of the CoinTools functionality on Drupal 8. So I have this is a live website. It's a startup project I'm working on called Blingpin. So this is what I've done so far, but all it really is a Drupal 8 installation with my CoinTools module installed and not much else. So I'm just going to run you through some of the functionality. If we click on Extend, so by the way, this is what a typical Drupal 8 website looks like. If you go to Extend, you can see the modules. So under Core, these are the modules that come with Drupal Core. And then down here is the modules that come with my CoinTools package. So we've got CoinTools base package. Daemon is a package that can communicate with the Bitcoin software, Bitcoin D. Fiat will pull in the exchange rates. And then spam filter is a way to use Bitcoin to prevent people from submitting spam to your Drupal website. And in future, it will be integrated with Drupal Commerce. And then you'll be able to, if you've got a Drupal Commerce e-commerce website, then you'll be able to just receive Bitcoin payments directly. So I'll show you some of the basic functionality. The way Drupal works is that a lot of things are entities. So a user is an entity, a piece of content is an entity, and in Drupal 8, even a block. And one of the properties of entities is that they are fieldable, so you can connect different fields to an entity. So let's make an example content type. Hopefully the internet's going to work for me. I can switch to another network if necessary. There we go. Okay. So we've got content types. So I will add a new content type. And then I could just call it test for example's sake. And then we can add any fields that we want. So we can click on Add Field. Either we can use an existing field that's used on another content type, or we can create our own one. So some of these come with Drupal core. So you've got a Boolean field, a comment field, email. You can add all different kinds of data to your content type. CoinTools adds these three, so coin address, coin amount, coin transaction.